Well, happy birthday, Mr. Washington. We're all here on a national holiday, all at work, hard, right? Welcome. Good afternoon. My name's Yannick, for those who don't know me. If you do know me, I'm sorry. All right, so it's time for this meeting. So quarterly, I do a little presentation here about the previous quarter. And so this is the ED Town Hall. I'm reporting really on our fourth quarter activities here in the community. We'll take a look a little bit at January as well when we go to the finances. We'll talk about some capital projects coming up and also just a variety of other topics that might be of interest today. So, um, all right. So I think we have numbers first. Let's get that first part, the boring, financials. Well, let's take a look. So this is the full year. I've worked with Michelle to do one slide. So everything is on this, right? So it's very condensed, but I'll sort of walk you through the financials for 2023. And we've reported at length, at least at more length, to the Finance Committee a few weeks ago. We've closed the books on last year. And as I told the Finance Committee, it was a good year. So for a while, we were on track for a great year. We had a couple of bumps in the road, and I'll cover those in a minute. So we have three columns. All right. So the first column here is what actually occurred in 2023. The middle column was what we had budgeted. So as you know, you do a budget and you try to stick to it as much as possible, but things happen and you have a bit of a variance sometimes. So these red numbers here and the black numbers, we'll go through them as well. So, but what I like to do when I look at the finances, I think what people want to know is, well, what's the bottom line? You hear this all the time, right? What's the bottom line? The bottom line is right here. So this is, we're either going to post a surplus or we're going to be posting a deficit. So deficit is negative, and you'll see a few between the parentheses, and they're red as well. So these are deficit numbers. And the surplus is usually black, at least on my forms. And so what happened at the end of 2023 is we posted a positive variance of just short of $118,000, right? So it was a good year. We had a little bit left at the end of the year. And bear in mind, this was on a revenue budget of 26.3 million. So once it's all said and done, it was really close. Um, During the year, we were ahead of the game a little bit until December hit, and we had costs in the culinary that were unexpected. As you know, we had transition in leadership, and there was a lot of costs in the kitchen in December. So that explains why we lost a little bit of our cushion. And we had budgeted to, we try zero, but it's really hard to get to zero. As you know, this budget is funded by the fees that you pay. So the goal is to get to zero, right? We're trying not to generate money from this, or worse, to get in the red. So this is what we have budgeted. So when it's all said and done, the year we ended about 114,000. Some of the salient and important items is probably the independent living revenue. So as you can see, we did not make all the revenue that we were intending from independent living. So we had budgeted 19.1 and we came in at 18.8. It was close, but it was not all that we had expected, partially The reason for this is that we had IL residents that transferred to the care center at least a little bit more than we had anticipated. So as you will see here in the care center, that explains the positive variance here. So we have budgeted 6.4 million and we collected 7 million in fees. Now, part of this is not just independent living residents, it's also Medicare revenue, private pay revenue that was in there. So that explains that variance. So revenues overall, we were just short of $288,000 in revenue. If we go on the expense side, so total expenses here. So these are big numbers, I do understand. And it cost us a little bit more than what we had anticipated as well when it came to expenses, really close. And you would expect that with a little bit more revenue, you have a little bit more expenses too. Um, and finally, probably another line that is important to mention is the contributions to the capital item replacement reserve, the CIRR. This is what allows us to do capital projects in the community. So the contribution last year was 1.364 million. We spent more than that because of the remodel. So it was a good year. It was also a challenging year. As you will recall, we had significant increases in fees, a lot of inflationary um, trends in our expenses, the things we buy here at the community. So we came in pretty close and pretty happy with the work that the directors and managers in the community did last year. So those are the financials. Now, let's take a look quickly at January because we've closed the books for January. January is always a bit of a month of anxiety because you have a brand new budget and you hope that you did it somewhat right and that you come close to budget, right? So let's take a look at January. So there's a few more lines here, all right? We didn't have time to abbreviate and keep it simple. So this is revenue. This right here is all expenses. And right at the bottom, it gives you where you're at. So the same three columns. So we have what we have budgeted here in the middle. This is the actual what happened in January. And finally, the variance on the right column. So once again, let's go look at the operating income. So it's good. There's no red. We want to try to avoid red or the parentheses. And so we came in about 75,000 above the budget. And that budget was, once again, it was a 2.3 million revenue and it was 2.02 million in expenses. So we had a little bit more revenue. And as you can see, there was a little more in independent living, a little more in the care center. We're pretty close. And the expenses, we saved a little bit from what we had expected. And it's distributed very differently. As you can see here, this line, we're watching it now. That's the kitchen. It's come back into line quite a bit from December. So we're glad to see this. All right. And then once again, I like to show the contributions to CIRR, the capital item replacement reserve. We made these contributions. So total, when it's all said and done, we're a little bit ahead by 73,000. Not much, but if we can do this, it won't be like this every month, but it's good to have it when you have it. All right. All right, let's take a look now at the capital projects. We have a few going on at the moment, and there will be more in the next few months. So let's talk about them. Probably of most interest because you see it when you drive into the community. It's the B-wing roof construction And so this is going currently. It's somewhat on schedule. It's going well. I've been on the roof last week and I took some photos. I have some to show you here, but just we still plan to complete the project around mid-March. So there's that big yellow slide that you see there when you enter the community. I tried it. Just kidding. Not for humans, just for garbage. All right. So here's a photo. And this was also Friday. It hasn't been repaired yet. They're getting to it here, but you can see the deterioration of the roof over the past 25 years. So water would pool here and it would cause all sorts of issues, right, inside the construction. So we're remedying these issues now with a brand new roof. So you can see here, this is the new roof. Each portion is affixed very carefully. Um, and there's a lot of work going on. They're painting here or priming the roof. There will be a final coat of paint on it once they're done. Other photos that may be interesting, there's a lot of equipment on the roof, HVAC equipment and other types of equipments that serve the community and the facility. And so these had to be lifted so that they could put the new roof layer under and then they were reaffixed. All right, just some equipment here as you can see. And that is the big chute. I was right next to it. I was very tempted to slide down, but I did not. Robert did, though. No, just kidding again. He did not. That's how he goes home at night. Takes the chute, right? Anyway, I thought that was a good photo. So once again, the roof project is ongoing, and it's going well. It's on time, and we hope to have this done here by mid-March. All right, another question that I get sometimes is, Yannick, when are we doing phase 2 of the remodel? Well, that is coming as well. So here's the latest details that I have. So we are still in the design development phase with the remodel, meaning the designers are together and they are developing the concepts that we want our community to look like, which is the desert breeze concept, right? That we've presented last year early. So this design should be ready by the end of Q1 or early Q2. And we're going to be doing the same thing that we did with phase 1. So first, the designers are going to come into community and they'll present these concepts to the cabinet team. And then we'll open this up to some resident leaders, just like when we did for phase 1. And then we will present all of it to the residents. All right. I'm not sure that we're going to have as many renderings, these poster boards. We'll probably have a couple, but corridors are really difficult to render. It's hard, but we'll have some of the fabric available. But we'll probably have one for the lobby. We do plan on that currently. And so when that's all ready, we'll just present all this to the residents. So just a word here is that we may start actual construction during the pre-construction phase. So pre-construction is when you get plans drafted, right? When we did the dining rooms here, we needed plans for this. So it took a few months to actually draw the plans. And we couldn't start construction because everything was designed and was to be built according to plan. Now, for corridors, there are things that we can do that don't require plans, right? Ceiling tiles. You don't need plans for this. So we may start corridor work before we are done with construction plans. All right. So when will that be? Probably this summer. All right. I don't have dates yet for the lobby either. Not sure if we're going to fit it in 24. If we don't, it'll be early 25. But once again, this famous acronym, the capital item replacement reserve, has budgeted $2 million this year for this remodel. So we do have the funds that are released to do the work. We'll just try to fit in as much as we can. So, and as I say here, corridors this year, lobby uncertain for this year. Just want to, I'm presenting some of these tidbits here over the months. I presented a few in my last town hall. So this is, I just got these actually on Friday. This is concepts for the theater room. So as you can see, we have carpet patterns. Does not mean that it is this carpet. It means those are patterns most likely that it will look like this. Um, Top base and table base and top and credenza, that's number 2. Once again, ideas, the chairs, that's for the theater room. The number 5 are fabrics of material. And once again, once we get to presenting, we probably will have some of these fabrics or samples of them. So you can look at them and you can feel them and touch. And I think it's nice to have an idea of what's going on in there before you start a project. Another room is the conference room. So I'll try to orient everybody. So the conference room is, it's not this room here, but it's on the other side, right? So from the windows, you can see down into the prickly pear. That's a conference room. And just opposite to it, above the prickly pear, as well as a card room. So this is it right here. You can look through these windows into the prickly pear, and you've got that little lounge with the chairs here with the overlook into the prickly pear here. That is the stairwell. So it will be designed somewhat like this. Obviously, these tables are movable, and we can make a long conference table, or we can have some smaller units with 4 tops. And once again, some more ideas and concepts here of how things will look like. All right. All right, just a word about corridors. I wanted to touch on this. At the community, it has been a practice to allow for personalization in your front at your front door. And we will continue doing this even after we remodel the corridors. But a couple of things I wanted to cover, simply because I've had residents with complaints on this or some minor issues. So the community will continue to allow for personalization of front door alcoves after the remodel. You don't have to have anything up there, but if you want to, that is okay. But please ensure that these personalizations are compliant with our practices. They need to be contained within the alcove. All right, you should not impede into corridor space with there's a few things that are pretty large currently. So we're just asking the residents to reevaluate here. If your items go into the corridor from the alcove, maybe rethink that a little bit. Also, no sharp objects. That actually I've had a complaint about in the past month. No sharp objects. Some people have told me, well, I look at it and I feel drawn to it almost like I'm going to trip over it and I'm going to get cut. So just watch those items, please. No trip hazards as well, no electric cables that come out. And then try to go for the more modest displays if possible. If it's phosphorescent yellow, it may not be in tune with the rest of the corridor. All right. All right, another project that is coming up soon is, as we discussed last year, is elevators 1 and 2. They will be rebuilt completely. They will have new motors. It's a build from scratch. They will be brand new elevators. The cabins will be redone as well in these. And I actually have right here in the front, if you can see the red dot here, I do have some samples. This will be the floor. And this is how the interior will look like, the grain of wood specified. But you do have a decent rendering here of how the elevators are going to look. And here are some facts. So each elevator, so one and then elevator two, will each be closed for 6 weeks. That's about the time that it will take to rebuild these cabins and engines. Residents will see very little from this. This will be done from a space that is inside the elevator shafts, and so we won't see much. You probably will hear a little bit at times, unfortunately. Um, so we'll be a total of 12 weeks, but only one of the two elevators will be out of commission at a time. All right. So obviously, when one elevator is out, it causes stress on the other. Sometimes people wait a little bit more. We also have elevators at the middle of the corridors on each side that can be used as well to go up and down. And also at the end of the middle corridor as well. So there's 3 alternate elevators, and we'll have signs for this once we get to it. There will be touchdown monitors in the elevators. All right. Um, so we can display whatever it is that we want. We've had menus in elevators in the past, so we will certainly display menus. But also the other thought was to display the daily calendar of activities. So for that day, so we can just swipe really quick between one and the other. It's simple. And it can all be done electronically. So we won't need to have someone to go with paper and do prints and, replace all of these. So when somebody's sick and we don't have the new menus, then it's frustrating. So we should have all this electronic now. It should look really good. And this project will begin in the month of April. Now, we don't have a date yet, but I did have a meeting also last week on this. And so the contractor is targeting April to begin this project with us. All right. Oh, these Amazon lockers. We've had a lot of issues with those. So the project is still happening. We've had issues with Amazon, but especially with the installer of the boxes. And so here's what happened. So we worked with Amazon for several months to get these. And the process is they want to see the space where you're going to put it in. They need to have specific measurements. They want to make sure that there's somebody can go in, can go out, that wheelchairs can go in, out. So there's some ADA specs in there. And so we were approved by Amazon. And so we got all excited and we got the boxes. They're in storage currently offsite. And the installer shows up and they tell us we're not installing. And then I thought, why? And they said, you're not ADA, American for Disabilities Act compliant. There's not enough room in this space. And we thought, no, we actually modified the room so that we meet ADA specs. And the person said no, they left. So this was early December. And so we had to go back to Amazon and they thought, yeah, that's really odd. And then we told Amazon, who's in charge? They said, you are, Yannick. They didn't say that. So anyway, we went back and we had to, I'm not sure what there was to resolve, but we are now rescheduling the install. And Amazon said, no, you are fine. There is nothing we see on our end. This has never happened. So to come to a room near you in the lobby, the Amazon lockers. No dates yet, but it should be weeks before they're installed, not months. So Jason Halvai has been leading this project. So last communications, he's on vacation this weekend, but last week we discussed that we should have a date imminently with a different installer. All right. Okay. All right, another topic that keeps coming up here at the community, and it's scams. Wanted to talk about this for just a minute. So, community residents continue to experience attempts to be tricked by scammers. So usually you will have a scammer that prepares, and then they will either email, call, or whatever tactic it is that they had, and they'll target several residents here, right? And we do see this from time to time, and they will continue, and there is no way to stop these folks. They just pick up the phone, and somehow they got some information, and they're going to try to trick you into giving them your information, your bank information, or your social security number, or what it is that they are after, right? We can't stop that. We'd have to screen every phone call, screen every email. We can't do that, obviously. But what we can do is discuss and remind ourselves to be very, very cautious about scam artists that are out there. Do not share personal information. Be especially cautious of impersonators. Another very important one, because I have been impersonated. Even I have John here from sales. He has been impersonated. Who else has been? Few of us have been. And they'll just say, hey, they call and they say, hey, it's Yannick here. Hey, we didn't receive your rent payment. And they don't always use the right words, right? Somebody says rent payment. Oh, that should trigger a red. We're not a rental community, right? If they could use fees, who knows? Sometimes before they quote unquote attack the community, they'll try to have as many facts right as possible. So they'll research our business, and they may know that it's monthly fees instead of rent. So they might say, hey, it's Yannick. We haven't received your monthly fees. Can you give me your bank number? I can do this really quick. Do not. I will never call you to ask you for specific personal information, be it health, finances, family, or whatnot. I will not do that. And if I ever do, please hang up on me. It will give you some satisfaction, perhaps, but it probably will not be me, all right, or anyone else from our team. So we had a few residents in January who were attempted to be scammed, and so we did talk with the police about some of this. And I didn't know this, but Scottsdale PD is actually an officer that takes care of scam artists here in Scottsdale. And he came to the community and he recorded a video for us. And so it's untouched. How long is the video? 13 minutes, right? So tips and tricks to remember to not get scammed. And I have a short preview here. There's only a minute, all right? It's only a preview, so you can go to Touchdown and watch the whole thing if you wish.
Hello, my name is Officer Rob Katzroff, and I'm with the Scottsdale Police Department as your crime prevention officer for the Foothills District. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with you about a very important topic that many of our seniors are falling victim to, and that is online fraud. ID theft, how does it work? Well, it starts with a fake email or a phone call. They try to obtain your personal information so that they can access your accounts or make new ones. And they try to force you to make payments to them in unusual ways. So we're going to talk about all these impersonator scams. There's a good list of them, and we'll go over each one of them individually. More false promises. You've won big. I'm with the IRS. You get a call, email, or text message from someone who says that they're from the Social Security Administration or even Medicare. They say something alarming like your Social Security number has been suspended, or maybe you'll miss out on a government benefit. To fix it, so how can we avoid the scams altogether? Well, one, block all unwanted calls and text messages. If you don't recognize the number from your contact list, then don't answer it and block them for the future. Lastly, if you should fall victim to a scam, there's a couple of things that you can do. One is hang up once you realize that you're being scammed and power down your computer. Next, you'll want to contact your bank or your credit cards and let them know about the scam. And then finally, you'll need to report the crime. If you have stumbled onto a scam but you haven't lost any money, then the reportfraud.ftc.gov is the best way to do it.
All right, so a good educational video here from a local officer. They deal with this all the time, not only at the Greyhawk, but just in Scottsdale in general. Where is it on touchdown? Thank you for asking.
If you go to the update icon, there's a section called video updates. It's right in there. And I believe Jason emailed this out to the community as well after we got done recording it, but we can always email it out again.
Yep, we can do that. We could re-email that. It's been emailed. We don't want to spam you. Not scam, spam. But so anyway, it's available. And so if you have a 15 minutes, available at some point, maybe go to touchdown and take a quick listen and a quick watch. And I think it could be helpful. I think the key here is to be reminded of that periodically. So I've had a number of my letters last year that dealt with this. Once again, if you talk about it too much, then you become somewhat numb to it because there's too much reminders. But just wanted to do this here with a great video from a local police officer. All right. All right, COVID. I want to talk about this a little bit as well. So as you probably remember, in January, we had a bit of a spike. We had 4 spikes in 2023. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit because we haven't in a while. So the community has had 1 COVID outbreak so far this year. And actually, right now, we are watching numbers as well. We did have a bit of a spike over the weekend. And I think it will make sense to all of you that all of these spikes are usually, and they have been directly related to large social events in the community. We just had Valentine's, right? People tend to go out, people mingle differently than on a non-special event. And all it takes really is one person to give it to a few. And if we're not cautious, then it can spread some more. The January spike that we had was directly related to New Year's Eve's festivities. So, and, we're not going to stop doing festivities, but I think it's important for residents to know that if there's going to be a large gathering like this one, there's a risk associated with it. So if you don't want to get sick, maybe you want to avoid these altogether. Or wear a mask. We have masks outside here. We put them periodically for these types of events. So, of course, we are no longer in a pandemic, and the outbreaks are managed here at the community. And probably 2 of the most important things to remember. Number 1 is that if you have any kind of symptoms, just stay home, right? We even have folks, sometimes they have symptoms and they go to the wellness center, and that poses a problem just in and of itself. Or they also go to the dining room. Sometimes you wake up and you get a little itch in the throat and you're like, I'll be fine. In fairness, this happens. It happens to me. I'll sleep with the window open. And then I wake up and have a little tickle, and by 10 o'clock, it's gone, right? So it's a question of judgment. But please, if you have symptoms like a fever, definitely stay home. You can call the wellness center, and the best way maybe to diagnose would be to have a home test. And of course, that's only for COVID, right? I don't think they sell influenza A home tests. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. But there's a number of upper respiratory diseases, and they all require different tests. So stay home if you have symptoms. And also, we would ask that you refrain from visiting the care center. All right. So if symptoms, that population in the care center is very vulnerable. So we want to keep those respiratory illnesses out at all cost. All right. So we'll continue to have vaccination opportunities. Please note the last one we had was a lot more difficult to put together because we're no longer in pandemic. It's getting hard to get um, a vaccination clinic together. But I know that local pharmacies still offer these. And so it's a great way to get vaccinated and be up to date. And at the community, in the future, we will stop testing as well for COVID. We'll run out of tests. Most of the tests we have currently actually are probably expired. We still use them because we think they work. Um, and COVID really has become, or is still becoming, like any other upper respiratory illness like influenza A. Um, it's still more recent and we're still testing. Here's an issue we see. Folks come down and they get a test because they have symptoms and then they're negative and they still go around in the community and do life as usual. And then 2 days later, they test positive. The damage has been done, right? So once again, the most important here is if you have symptoms, feel free to call the wellness center um, for advice. That will always be there for that, but please stay home if you're ill. And we tell the same to our employees. I have Willow here in the room, and all of last year, this is a battle, even with our staff, right? If you're sick, stay home. So the beauty is that we can send our staff home. It's really easy. With a resident, it's a little different. All right. All right, so let's talk about our memory support. Our memory support has been rebranded. What does that mean? It just means we gave it a new name, right? So over time, you're going to hear memory unit or memory care a little bit less. And it's been rebranded to Canvas. And we'll talk about this for just a minute. So you can see our website, vliving.com, for details. And here's a photo of the page. So, um, I'm not sure that we have to, if you have a cognitive deficit, that we have to point it out so blatantly all the time. Oh yeah, I live in memory care. Hello, memory care here, right? So Canvas is the new name for our memory unit. You're going to see this more and more. It's going to take some time before um, it becomes adopted. Maybe it'll go as fast as Alpenglow, who knows? And so as you can see here, there's a lot of marketing that goes with this, but really our memory program here at the community it's been an ongoing business that has developed, meaning the approach to this unit. And I want to talk about this for just a minute. We have 4 pillars to Canvas. And it's not because there's a new name that this has changed, but we're certainly putting a lot of emphasis on these pillars. So the first one is that it's progressive approach. Things change a lot in that field, and V is committed to stay top of the line when it comes to knowing what to do for dementia care. Another one is that it is personalized care. The cookie cutter just doesn't fit in that venue. Now, in skilled nursing, it's a bit of a different approach, and the protocols are a lot more standard because it's medical, right? This is a social program still, our memory care program. So very personalized. Every resident has a different history, and the goal is to really capitalize on that information to provide personalized care. Whole person wellness. Physical side is only one side of wellness. And usually in memory, or soon in Canvas, we can start using it. It's out. It's on the website already. We have people who are completely healthy. There's no real physical ailment or physiological illness. You're healthy. You just have cognitive deficit. So There's a lot more to the whole person wellness. And then finally, we are committed to train our staff so that they always know the latest. And I know Melanie just went through another round of training, and Amanda as well, not them personally, but the staff in Canvas have been retrained at the end of 2023 with, with the latest approaches and philosophies. Here's a quick letter that I received not too long ago. This is from a resident here at the community. And that resident's spouse is actually in the memory care unit or Canvas. Yannick, just want to let you know how pleased I am with, I redacted the name, adjustment to living in memory care. He says he's happy, comfortable, and likes the food. He's very aware of his surroundings and enjoys the fact that I'm close by and bring him to my apartment frequently. As I've told you, I've been in so many similar places in my role as hospice and palliative care social worker in the Denver Boulder metro area. He always is dressed clean and neat, and he enjoys the manicures he gets from one of the workers. Thank you for this because his response is my priority. So it's neat. It works like this too, right? We do have resident couples who have one person in independent living and the spouse is in the care center. And it's neat to be close to each other. This is why that person actually moved into our community, for that ability. And thank you to our folks in memory support or Canvas for providing good care. All right, one more slide on a bit of a different topic, and it's the Alzheimer's Association. Some of you may be familiar. This is a national US organization, and of course, their purpose is to advance not the cause of Alzheimer's, but combat the effects of Alzheimer's for those who have the condition. So our team of workers, we want to be more supportive to that organization. Why is that? Because we have a dementia unit in our community. So we feel that this is a really good match. So this year we plan on walking with them as we did last year. We did the Alzheimer's walk as a team. It was in November, right? October, November. And we do plan on doing it again this year. And we want to raise awareness a little bit more from our team. I'm just informing you residents of this. We want to donate as individuals of the staff here at VA Greyhawk. So we have formed a small committee, and we're going to be thinking about ways that we can donate to this great organization this year. Now, this leads me to an opportunity. So these two paintings here, this is the four horses of the apocalypse. And I think there's 6 on this one, I think. So these were in the Desert Vista dining room before the remodel. And several of you have come to me and said, Yannick, if you throw these paintings away, watch out. So I kept them. There is interest to have these paintings. Some residents have interest, and I just can't just donate them because I could get in trouble with a conflict of interest. So I reached out to our legal department, and we all thought that the best way to do it is to do a silent auction. And my thought was, I will donate the proceeds to the Alzheimer's organization. So these should have been donated as well with the rest of the other paintings and so on. But the request was high. So we're going to do a silent auction this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. These will be posted, mounted on the wall in front of the sales office. That's our new location for temporary art. And if you have an interest, please come and do a silent bid on the form, and the highest bidder will take those. And I know that there's some interest, at least from a few residents here at the community. If we get $50 for it, great. If we get more, even better. All of it goes to the Alzheimer's Association, right? We'll put it into our annual donation. We don't really have a goal for this. It's the first time we do this. But I love this organization. I think they do great things for people who have Alzheimer's and dementia-related illnesses. Oh, one more thing Billy wanted that I announced. So if you wish to do a confidential bid, you can. Just give her a call and say, this is so-and-so. Please keep my bid confidential. And she'll be able to keep track so everybody can know without you being known that you've made that bid. All right. So you don't have to participate if you don't want to, but I do know there's probably a handful of residents who will if they still have that interest. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. All right. Oh, and there's some of our staff who walked at the Alzheimer's Walk. It's downtown Phoenix. And so this, once again, was last November. It's only 6. There were a lot more of us, but it's one of the photos that I selected here. So folks from engineering, we have Abby right here from sales. So, all right. Quickly on staffing, have a few slides left. So as of today, we have 9 full-time positions and 7 part-time positions on a roster of about 230 some. It fluctuates. And these 2 departments currently are culinary and the care center. When are we going to get that chef? I have an announcement in a few minutes, right? So really, this is the lowest number of open positions that we've seen in about 5 years at the community. So, oh, Willow says no. Oh, this is already obsolete. Yeah, give her a hand. Willow has been working really hard. All right. So we have even lower numbers. And so obviously this year we have a huge opportunity now that we have a very stable team to focus on retention of employees. As you know, we have certified as a great place to work. This is extremely important to us. So now that recruiting does not have to be a focus, we can do some work in retention, and we love doing that here. All right, so it's a good news on the staffing. And we're working hard in these 2 departments also to even lower the count of open positions. I hope I didn't just jinx this. All right, we have a new chef. Let's start with the photo. How about the photo? There he is. That's him. And I don't know how that happened. He's already got the Viet Greyhawk. The garb already. So I mean, he's done the whole interview process. This has lasted 2 months. I think it might have been Chef Shuby who was like, let me just do this for him. And he was able to take a photo over the weekend. So his name is Chef Ray Anderson. He'll be joining our team next week. So he has 33 years experience in the food industry. And Chef Ray has had one very long tenure, almost all 33 of his years at the same location at the Scottsdale Resort. He's done everything from being a dishwasher to being an executive chef, and all of this, all of the spectrum of jobs that are included in that at that location. So he knows obviously Scottsdale very well. He knows hospitality really well. He knows seniors very well, even knows several of our staff. So this should be really good. Chef Ray has outperformed all other chef candidates during this interview process, and we did not make this easy. All right, so there were the interviews at the community with myself and others, like Willow, for instance, took several of those interviews as well. There were corporate interviews with some of our VPs that were done as well. Lots of interviews. I lost count of how many interviews I did for that position. Also, all of the candidates that we moved to the next step received a management assessment, right? This is a third-party organization that will actually assess these candidates for leadership and management skills. We did do a stage or a tasting here at the community with several of these candidates. So they came in, we gave them a number of hours, we gave them ingredients, and they were supposed to prepare whatever food that could wow our teams. So we usually had 6, 7, or 8 participants in those tastings, all folks that have some sort of culinary exposure. And then finally, the last step is the cabinet assessment that was done here. So they usually would show up for half a day and they would meet with members of the cabinet. We had different settings. Some of them were 2-on-1, some of them were more, some 1-on-1, I think, as well. And so we received 150-ish resumes for this position, a lot more interest than I thought we would receive. So there he is. You're going to see him next week. We're going to give him a couple of weeks to settle here in that kitchen. We still have Chef Shuby's with us, obviously, and Chef Marco. And I did want to thank them sincerely for the work that they did. Yep, it does deserve a hand. They may see that clip. So especially in December, where sometimes as a resident or a customer or a diner, we just don't know what goes on, right? But December was extremely challenging in the kitchen, and our troops really rallied, right? The goal was, okay, we had an executive chef that left, and we are going to pick it up. And not only did the executive chef leave, but we had a few cooks as well that left around the same time. And when an executive chef leaves, you have a lot that goes away, a lot more than one might think. Not everything is written down. There are processes that are known only to the executive chef. And so they really picked it up. There were some costs there. It cost more than usual to run the kitchen in December, as I mentioned in the financials at the beginning, but they really did a good job. They've had very few days off, these two. And so next week, I'm planning their next vacation. They're going to be out of here for a while. They need a refresh. So thank you to both of them. So Chef Shuby, Chef Marco. Uh, yeah, I think so, yes. If the two of them will stay with us, yes, of course, yeah. They're jewels, right? They're great. Um, and so, yeah, they will take some time off here in the next month or so, and we'll try to work this so that Chef Ray can also learn and become independent as well. So, all right, quickly, as we are coming to the top of the hour here, resident survey action plan. So in my last town hall, I presented the resident survey scores. As you will recall, we had low scores in culinary at the time of the survey. We discussed a number of reasons, but as you can see, our action plan is entirely focused on culinary. If the culinary score had been higher, even the same as the previous survey, the overall score, which is called the engagement score, would have gone up. But just because of that one score, the engagement score was lower. So we're really focusing on 5 things, and this is just a summary, obviously. The first one was to have our distinct venues reopen. We wanted to do it on time and as close to budget, but also with menus that were representative of these venues. So this is obviously a work in progress. We've involved resident leaders in the Food and Beverage Committee, and we will continue to do so. Another big item was to replace our common cards. So the new cards that you can see at your tables are the actual survey questions. Literally, we just copied and pasted on the new cards. But what this does is that it gives us the exact temperature of the room here when it comes to resident satisfaction, right? So if you have a meal and you leave a comment, you're most likely to leave the same comments on the survey because the questions are the same. All right. Also, we are going to be, and we have, and will continue to seek feedback from 2 external executive chefs about our operation here at the Greyhawk. Some of you may have seen an increased presence from Chef Jeff Weston from Silverstone, who was here most of December in the kitchen. He was here 3 to 4 times a week. He took a pretty good assessment of the operation as a whole and gave some recommendations. In the next few months, we will have another executive chef who will come into the community to do so. And we're taking the feedback and we're integrating this feedback into our operation here at the Greyhawk. We're looking at critical equipment, especially actually in the prep area. We're modifying our space a little bit based on some of these recommendations and also some needs that we knew we had last year. And then finally, probably very important, is this human touch of the executive chef or executive sous or sous chef to round our restaurants with the residents and getting direct feedback on a nightly/daily basis. All right, so we will continue to do this. We're obviously, with the comment cards, we are keeping really close scores. We had 106 cards in the month of January, so it's a pretty good sample. Different residents on different nights with different items. So, and we keep this data. The Food and Beverage Committee has asked me if we could report on that, and we will every quarter. So we'll wait to have really enough data, and we'll share with the committee as well. Alpenglow, now that we have an executive chef, we will return to lunch service. So just bear in mind that the dress standards will apply for that venue. We are going to reopen March 15th. It is a Friday. All right. And the prickly pear will also remain breakfast, lunch, and dinner as well. So, and the bar will remain open too, obviously. All right, sales. I think this is my last slide. So just to let you know the pulse on what goes on in the community. So far this year, we've had 4 move-ins. This sets us well ahead of budget. We had no move-ins budgeted. We had 4 move-ins in January. We also have 3 deposits other than these move-ins in 2024. So the sales department is definitely very, very busy. And we should all love that. We're 96% occupied. So, and we have only 3 available units. We have a few other units that are being turned. And it has been a little bit of a concern at this community, time that it takes to turn and so on. Last year, we did not log in 1 delay in turns. So the construction company has been on schedule for all these turns. We had 16 at one time during the year being turned altogether. That's a big number for Via Greyhawk. And finally, our sales goal this year is 25 move-ins. Of course, that is a goal. We just don't know what kind of inventory we're going to have. We only have 3 units right now. So inventory is low, but it's good in the sense that we're collecting fees on almost all of our units. And so it's good for the financials of the community, meaning it's good for the residents. Obviously, the higher the occupancy, the higher the fees we collect, and the less we would be under normal circumstances to have to raise fees for the following year. So it's just a good practice to have. There's Robert leaving. He's on vacation today, but let's do a Q&A here. I have a few minutes.
Hold on, Ms. Jordy.
What, just a quick question. What is this material, this gray material? Is that
This for the elevators.
No, but is it carpet or tile or what is
So
it?
this is tile that's going to be on the floor. We
Right.
no longer will have carpet in these
Right.
elevators, right? I'm sorry? No, actually, you can come and feel it. You'll see it's not slippery at all. It's very gritty. I mean, I guess, you know, if Now, one reason we're moving away from the carpet is the sanitary environment. We have those furry animals that have accidents in our elevators. So this will prevent that. It's all, but could you have a slip? Yeah, I guess you could, but just be cautious. If your dog has an accident, just don't step in it. And these are,
That wasn't my real question. My real question was, what was the chef's job from where he left? What was his position?
executive chef. He's been for, I think, 8 or 9 years there at the Scottsdale Resort. So he's done everything there. All right, other questions?
What is the best way for us to give you the feedback you need about what's going on in the restaurant? For example, pork tips are generally good. It was dry this time. You need some sort of statistical thing to say going up or down.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. I really think that the best way is to fill out a comment card whenever you can. Just be as fair as possible, right? So usually we get comment cards when something goes wrong. We do see that. So maybe do one when things go wrong, do one when you have a great meal too, right? Let us know because it's so important to build on what goes well as opposed to just know. And frankly, so food is a really difficult area, right? So if I served my best meal that I can make here right now, you probably all would not like it, but but some of you might, and some of you might not. So there's that very subjective aspect to food. So when it's good, let us know. And if we skipped a beat, let us know as well. You know, here's the reality. We'll serve prime rib. Some people love the fat on the prime rib. If you don't, not that they eat it, but they want to see the plate arriving with the fat, it shows that it will be probably tasty and soft. Others really don't like it. There's no way to know your exact personal preference on this. So we usually send it the way the cut has arrived. Some will have more, some will have less. Unless you're very specific and you say, I abhor fat, then we'll do something most likely. Thank you. All right.
Two questions regarding the care center or this new location called Canvas. Is Canvas for memory support throughout the V organization? Is question one. Question two is, what does it mean?
I know Alpenglow. By the way, the introductory slide had Alpenglow on it. I don't know if you noticed when you came to sit down, those mountains and that purplish color, that's Alpenglow. So yeah, it is branded for all V communities. So our memory cares are going to have this name Canvas. So Canvas, obviously, I mean, this is a canvas right here where you can really start from scratch with a resident who would move into our memory unit, learn who they are, what their preferences are, what their life story is, and develop an approach to their care that is different than everybody else. Some people might say, well, these two canvases have very similar paintings. That's true. But it's just, once again, it's the concept that I didn't come up with the name. I wish maybe I did. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it sounds good. It gives some meaning, but that's what I think the interpretation of Canvas is for our memory care units. Thank you.
My question is, has anyone from our home office in Chicago that deals in the remodel of the Vs reached out to any of the Greyhawk residents to ask for input now that we've been operating for, let's say, a month on pluses and minuses of the renovation in hopes that that could be used either for future renovations here or other Vs within the community? Let me give you an example. At Cape Canaveral, after every lunch, we had an after-action program meeting. What went right? What didn't go right? and what need to be fixed before the next launch. So my point or my question is, has that been done? And if not, why not?
Thank you for the question. I think the answer would be yes. I think there's a somewhat of an organic process here at Via Greyhawk. There is a subcommittee that, and I've seen different folks in my 2 years here of people who make usually recommendations, right? And we just did, I think it was this past week or 2 weeks ago, we received some recommendations from a team that has the library in mind. And so we had almost a full page of recommendations. And usually what I do is that I'll forward these to our corporate designer, Misha Mann, and we do our best to integrate some of these recommendations into the upcoming work. So, and usually what they'll do as well is they'll take a good look at the recommendations and they'll provide some answers, as to, yep, we can do this, definitely. This might be a little harder and that is something we couldn't do. So it's somewhat organic for phase 2. I think we've had several meetings. And I always try to send it, usually it's in writing, it's done through email with different documents. And so yeah, I do think we have a somewhat organic process here for that. Thank you.
I have a question about the paintings. I think it's admirable that you are going to auction them off for a very good cause. What happened to all the other artwork that is not installed at this point? I had imagined maybe it was in a warehouse awaiting distribution into the renovated hallways, or not.
Yeah, so for the artwork, so there was more artwork and this was donated to a charitable organization as well. And so this went with the furniture and the tables and the chairs, some of the lighting, sconces, and so on that we donated. I kept these two specifically just because of several resident requests. That's why I kept them. And there were no threats, but I did keep them. So, and was there a second part to your question?
Simply a question about whether or not the artwork that is in the hallways now will have a similar fate, or whether there was a lot of work, as I recall, put into seeking resident comments about pieces of art and whether or not they should be kept or.
Yes, thank you. So yes, the answer is yes to all of this. So the corridor artwork, some of it we will keep based on residents' recommendations. We have a list of all of these. And now one thing that will probably happen as well is that the artwork that we keep will move. Meaning if you lived in the A wing, second floor, and you had a painting there, you'll probably see a new one, meaning it was at a different location in the community and it will be moved. So yes, the design team, that's part of the work that goes on. We do have some artwork that will be discarded because it is in poor condition. It may look good, but if you look at the frame, if you look at the back of the artwork, it's starting to fall apart. And so we'll have to dispose of that. But there's a great portion that we will keep. And this is, I think it makes sense. Some of it still will work here. It saves money instead of tossing everything. And then there will still be a sense of newness because some of you, if you've lived here for 20 years, you've probably been everywhere in the community. But if you've been at the community for a year or 2 or 3, maybe there's an area that you haven't seen the artwork, and this is what you will have in your corridor near your apartment in the future. So good question. Thank you, Mr. Bushman.
Are copies of the financial slides going to be made available?
Thank you for bringing this up. So this is broadcasted currently on 1960, and I will also have a quote unquote special version where just the slides and my voice over it. So you'll be able to, from the video, you can pause and you can look at all of these slides here, and they will be full screen. So I know on the 1960 currently, hello, it's just the room as is, but we'll prepare a version with the slides and the voiceover. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll take a final question, Ms. Lemire, and then I will stick around if other residents want to ask more questions.
First, I just had a comment in the hopes that it might raise people's idea of what to bid on these pieces. I forget her name, but the Richardson artist is a valued painter. She does very well here in the Southwest and has for years. So I'm just hoping that people won't think $50 is enough for the Alzheimer's Association.
Minimum 50,000. No, I'm just teasing. I'm kidding.
If only you could budget, solve the budget that way. The other thing I wanted to understand is any artwork from the lower level here that was in the venues, if it is not these two pieces, it has already been donated, or it's sitting around for consideration in other areas.
I'll double check, but I think it's B. But I'll double check for you.
So, because there were some very good, valuable pieces.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, so we're going to call it. Thank you so much for coming to the town hall. Thank you very much. And I'll be sticking around to take questions. There are cabinet members in the back too. Please direct your questions to them if you need.